Hi, I'm Joy Anderson with the Mississippi State University Extension Service in DeSoto County. I'd like to share today with you how to do straw bale gardening. It's one of my favorite methods because it doesn't require a lot of heavy duty equipment. All you have to do is have some good straw bales, and I will talk a little bit more about that, water, and some fertilizer to get it going. And it takes about 10 days to get the straw bales cured and ready to plant. So it's a very short period of time to get it ready. But once you do, you can plant directly into the bale. What I did first was I put down cardboard to make sure that the weeds didn't come up through it. You get good straw bales that are held together well. You want to make sure that when you set them up, that you set it up so that all these little straws are poking up. If you don't do it with the straws poking up, what you get, turn it over here, those straws act as water holding capacity. And you can see on this side, it's all folded over and you no longer have that water holding capacity. So making sure that when you set it up, you're going to set it up so that your straws, that those little holes will hold water when you water it. Next, you're going to spend some time making sure that you water these bales thoroughly and making sure that you're taking a little bit of time so that you're filling up all those straws with water. After we get the straw bales prepared with water, then we're going to add fertilizer to get a composting process going, and that's what I'm calling the curing period. So I also want to talk about what kind of straw bales you need to get while we're watering these, getting them ready. You need to make sure that the straw bales that you get are wheat, rice, barley, because those are going to have fewer seeds. If you get hay bales instead of straw, you'll get more weeds than you will plants. And so that's one of the reasons we call this straw bale, because we're using straw, which in producing a straw bale, what they do is they harvest the seed heads. So they take the seeds or the weed seeds off, and then they bale up what's left of the plant, and that's the stalks. And so that's why we have all these straws, and they're tightly put together so that we can start the composting process next. I have 7 straw bales here, and I put them end to end to make a big bed. I have it where I've got cardboard underneath so that there's no weeds coming up from the ground. And the other thing that I'm doing is I'm putting them all together because I'm making one big bed. You don't have to do it that way. You can do it, set it up however you want. I did it this way because from any side that I'm standing on, I can reach to the middle and be able to do all the gardening that I need to do without messing up the plants or anything. So I put them all together because that's where I had the space, and it makes it easier that all I have to do is come out to one place. The next thing that I'm going to do is, per each bale, I'm going to be using, I've calculated it out, I'm using 1 pound of fertilizer. I'm actually using a 13-13-13. I'm using 1 pound per bale. You could just, 1 pound is 2 cups. And so I could just sprinkle it on the top here. But in order to get the composting going, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to dig into this and put some down into each one of the bales. So what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to be putting some of the fertilizer down inside the bale. And so I'm put my gloves on so that I can get it down in there. And I want to put it in several places so that it gets down in there. And remember I said I want about 2 pounds. So I've got 2 cups here that I'm going to put down. And then after I do this, I'm going to water it again. So now what I'm doing is watering in the fertilizer to make sure that the composting process gets started. In order for the microorganisms to start using the nutrients that I've just put into the straw bales and start the compost process is water. So they have the carbon that's coming from the straw bale. They have the nitrogen and other minerals that are coming from the fertilizer that I added. And then the water completes it so that we are going to start composting. The thing about this is every day I need to come out and check it, because when you start composting, you will heat up. And so you want to make sure that everything stays moist so that it doesn't overheat, or if you lose moisture, it dries out too much, it stops the composting process. And what we're wanting to do is to start breaking down all the plant material so that it actually starts making soil. And so after we're going to do this for 3 days, on the 3rd day we're going to check it again and add some more fertilizer. And then we're going to wait 7 more days before we plant. So join me back when we start adding more fertilizer, and we'll talk some more about this process. Hi, my name is Joy Anderson. I'm with the DeSoto County Extension Office, and I'm finishing up getting the bales ready to plant. I'm making life a little bit easier on myself by I've gotten a soaker hose, and I'm actually taking and putting it down into the straw bale itself, so that when I need to water the bales, all I have to do is hook up the hose and it waters the whole thing at one time. To this point, we're on day 11. It's taken 10 days for this to get ready. We did the initial setting up and getting everything in place, and we did the fertilizer in the hay bales on day 4, as the first day and on day 4, and have just kept it wet, moist, so that the composting process can start. As you can see, there are these mushrooms that are popping up, which are perfectly okay. That means that the system is working. Yay! And so a lot of times in the early morning, you'll see a lot of mushrooms all over the bale. But we're getting ready to plant, and I will show you how to plant in the bale. I'm going to show you how we're going to plant in our straw bales that we've prepared. I'm going to be planting tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, and then I've also got space in here for some squash and zucchini. And I'm even going to put up a trellis of green beans. But first we're going to start out by just kind of laying out how we're going to plant things. And you can see that I've done some staggering so that there's plenty of room for the plants. And when you get ready to plant, you may have to pull out some of the straw in order to get some of the plants down in there, depending on how big your plants are. So I'm just going to try and make room for this plant right here, down here, and this. And you can see as I'm pulling the straw out that it's damp. It's already got fungus growing that is decomposing the plant, the straw. And so I'm going to make this hole big enough for me to put this soil and all down in this hole. And so this is a celebrity tomato. And you can see it's got nice little roots on it. And I'm just going to fit it all right down in there. And so that potting soil keeps the root system together, and as it starts getting into the straw, it will take off. I'm going to go ahead and put the straw that I removed out of that hole around it just to keep it looking even. And then when you get this planted, these are just like regular tomatoes. You're going to want some sort of support for them. Makes it easier to harvest. Spread these apart. And we're just going to put it down into the straw bale. Okay, so I've also set up this trellis in the straw bales, and I'm going to put down some potting soil where I'm going to plant my running beans, green beans, for the trellis, just to give it enough soil to keep it covered and moist while it germinates. So everywhere that I'm going to plant a bean seed, I'm going to put some potting soil down in there so that it's got something to start out with. These are rattlesnake green bean seeds. I'm using 2 seed per hole. If you see mushrooms growing, you know that it's working properly. Hi, I'm Joy Anderson with the DeSoto County Extension Office. I'm here to do our last installment of the straw bale gardening series, and I wanted to do kind of a follow-up, show you what the garden looks like after 2.5 months. I just want you to know that I've been getting peppers and eggplant and squash and zucchini and green beans out of the garden. I'm hoping to get tomatoes here real soon, but I wanted to give you a tour of the garden. I wanted to show you the garden. This is at 2.5 months, and you can see that it is really coming along very lush, green, prolific. Start over here on this corner and show you the squash that is coming out. Been getting squash now for about a month. And then the first thing that I started getting out of the garden is these beautiful sweet banana peppers. I did have problems early on with the tomato hornworm that kind of ate them down to nubs, but you can see that this one has recovered and is still producing. I have these wonderful eggplants that are coming on. I've harvested quite a few of those off the plants. I have zucchini that is producing as well. You can see that there's some nice lush growth and some baby zucchinis developing right down there. And then lots of tomatoes and lots of tomato blooms still to come. They're really, really nice plants. I've got 2 varieties. I've got Celeste and Mountain Spring. And then here in the back, we've got rattlesnake green beans on the trellis. You can see the green beans are getting ready with lots more blooms on the plant to make more. There's the pretty little bloom. But I want you to notice that the bales are still holding up pretty well. They are starting to decompose, and it's a good thing that they're held together with this twine, otherwise it would just totally collapse apart. But that's what's supposed to happen. You know that it's working when everything starts collapsing in on itself. It'll last long enough for probably up till frost, but after that you break it apart, and if you want to do some more gardening like this, next year you'll probably need to get some new bales, but this adds to your garden and develops soil and is really wonderful technique for a small garden situation. And the other thing that I like about it is that I'm not always bending over. It puts all the stuff, harvesting and everything, right at my level so that it's easy to harvest. This concludes our series on straw bale gardening. I hope that you've enjoyed each session and learned a lot about how to do this technique. It's really easy to do. If you have questions, feel free to contact our office and we will try to answer any questions that you might have. 662-469-8480. And happy gardening!